Welcome to the Mike and JD Show YouTube channel. Thank you for being here. I want you to do me a big favor before you check out this clip. I want you to hit the like button. I want you to throw in a comment and make sure you're a subscriber to this channel. And then I want you to share this video with your friends. Help us defeat the algorithm. And then if you like this content and you appreciate this content, please head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show and support the show. That is how we actually get funded to be able to do this. So we thank you very much for being here. And now enjoy the clip. Now, transitioning over to Josh Alexander, he was on the Battleground podcast, and he was on PW Insider's podcast, and he had some very interesting comments. And I'll just paraphrase. I'm not going to like read verbatim, but in regards to his contract, he said at no point was there ever any kind of like contentious issue between him and Anthem. He's a Scott D'Amore guy, but Scott, like, he became a Scott D'Amore guy after he signed. He didn't really know Scott D'Amore before he signed, but then they grew to be very close after he was signed to the company, and that he asked them not to pick up his option because he felt like he had outworked his contract, and that he wanted to have a new deal. And it wasn't that he wanted to go somewhere else. It was that he wanted a new deal with TNA, or he wanted the opportunity to test free agency on the open market. And I get that, and I understand that. So he kind of threw some cold water on like all the hostage talk, which I was a part of, but he brought that on himself whenever he decided to take to Twitter and do the hourglass thing. And then his wife quote tweeting the mistake that TNA made, quote tweeting it, saying he did not resign, he was extended. And that was just like a graphics department screw up, because in the press release, it very much stated that they picked up his third year player or team option. So it looked to me like it was a contentious thing. So that's on him for his lack of communication. And then if you go back to the day that it was announced, he doesn't interact with that post at all. He doesn't. He doesn't say, quote tweeted like I'm excited for one more year in TNA, let's get after it. He didn't say any of that stuff. He waited a week to talk about it. So that behavior tells me that he was not happy. That could be me reading into it. And he has come out and he went on to the typical podcast and said, I was totally fine. This was not an issue. Okay, but your behavior tells me otherwise, right? He didn't get out in front of the story, and in fact, he putting that hourglass thing and getting that started sent signals to everybody that he wasn't happy, and that's on him. That's his fault. That's not the fault of the people reading into that. That is his fault for creating that situation. He needs to do better with the social media if he's not going to start causing controversy, because last week we thought this company was in chaos, and that's because of him. That's his fault. He instead of tweeting an hourglass emoji, he could have been like, he's like, hey, look, I'm so excited, for 12 more months of TNA. Let's get after it. You know what I mean? And then hopefully we can work out a new deal within the next year. I mean, he said something like that in the SI story, but it kind of like the way it read was very much like through a publicist, because that's what SI kind of is right now. Like Justin Barrasso doesn't really do any hard hitting stories. Because when he does, he fucks them up. So he basically does PR for the companies now, for all of them, not just this specific company. If you need to get a story out there, like a contract signing or something like that, like he's probably the guy to go to, because despite the fact that they shit canned half their operations, Sports Illustrated still is kind of a household name. So when you can get your company into Sports Illustrated, people see that as a big deal. So they put out that press release through Sports Illustrated, and it very much looked like it was a filtered interview, right? Like Ross Foreman and and Anthony Chon were like right there watching over Josh as he's speaking to Justin Barrasso, or like they read it beforehand, you know what I mean? But he didn't say those things himself, like on his own. So it was good that he actually got out onto the podcast and kind of threw some cold water on the whole deal, because, we were being led to believe that this company was in complete chaos. And again, that's on him. That's his fault. Like, he should be a better leader than that. And he is very much a leader in this promo. I know he's a contracted talent, but he very much, like, when people think of TNA wrestling, they think of him right now. And so when it looked like he was unhappy, that made the company look bad. So he's got to fix that. But so yeah, but he's in for the next 12 months. You know what? Given what we know now, given what we have been seeing lately, he also stated that Anthem has already come to him about, negotiating a new contract. And so I would assume that those negotiations are ongoing. It would be smart of him to test free agency, but he could probably take a temperature of free agency long before his contract expires. He probably could. And I think the safe place for him to be is probably right here. Now, I would not have said that like a month ago whenever Scott D'Amore got fired. But I think this company looks at him as he's far more important to this company than he would be to any other company. I think that he would have to kind of start his way from the bottom if he goes to either WWE or AEW. I think that if he went to New Japan, there's not a lot of money in New Japan right now. New Japan's struggling. But if he did go, I think that he would kind of start off like in the upper middle and then probably work his way, because he's that good. He can hang with all those guys over there. He's that good. I think he'd be like upper middle, and then he'd become one of their top foreigners. So that, like, if he left TNA, I could see him going there, because if he goes to AEW, I think that, he would have great matches and he would have some great feuds. And he'd probably make some really good money. And I think that would be a good place for him. But I just don't think that he would just be like another guy on the show. All right, look what happened to. There's been a lot of people that have left TNA and have gone up there that were top guys in TNA, and they're kind of afterthoughts in that promotion now. So he doesn't have the charisma to be as important in AEW and WWE as you would need to have, right? He doesn't have that, but he is an amazing professional wrestler, and he can cut promos. Like, and just because when I mean charisma, like, he doesn't have like over the top megastar charisma, right? Like Will Ospreay does, So like Will Ospreay signing with AEW, like he's like a day one top guy. Josh Alexander wouldn't be. Josh Alexander would be like TNT championship, kind of like in that tier. And then if something sparks and he catches fire with their audience, then maybe he could like get to a certain level. Like you see him like challenging for titles, but I just don't think you probably wouldn't. Like Andrade was there for like, I think like 2 or 3 years, and he only had one singles pay-per-view match, like I think that's kind of where we would see him, like like a really good fucking wrestler on the card, can have a great match with anybody if you need him to. But if TNA can match the money offer that an AEW would match, then I would say probably stick with TNA. If in 12 months, the landscape in TNA has gotten to where you trust the president. And I think that's like one of the big problems is they just fired Scott D'Amore, like your most trusted agent. And when it seemed like things were getting better in TNA, they fired the president, and now you have to kind of like learn to trust these people. And now he has 12 months to do that. So I think this is a win-win for everybody, right? They extended his contract, or they picked up his contract for another year, and that gives them 12 months to learn to trust each other before they sign a new deal. And my prediction is I think that they will. I do. I think that they will. I think Josh Alexander, obviously he wants to make more money, and I think they'll probably pay him more money. If the company keeps on the same trajectory that we're seeing currently, it could always change.